All right, let's break down what we just read. I mean, this is, I think, is a reasonable story, and I think you two could handle it and make it out. It's a little more advanced, but I'm trying to build the reading level up. So I'll just go through this and point out some things along the way. So the Red Death had long devastated the country. So the Red Death is the plague. No pestilence had ever been so fatal or so hideous. Blood was its avatar. Fun fact, this, if it wasn't the first, was the one of the first uses of the word avatar in a short story. So blood was its avatar, and an avatar means an embodiment of something. So, and its seal, the redness and the horror of blood. There were sharp pains and sudden dizziness, and then profuse bleeding at the pores with dissolution. So Poe is describing the illness. You have sharp pains, you get suddenly very dizzy, and you bleed at the pores. Now, something to note, pores cover your entire body. So you are bleeding out, according to this, everywhere. And you're dead within a half hour, and there's nothing that anybody could do for you. So there were scarlet stains upon the body, and especially upon the face of the victim, were the pest ban which shut him out from the aid and from the sympathy of his fellow man. So they turned around and ran the other way if they saw somebody who had these symptoms, because it was sure death for anybody. So however much you liked the person and wanted to help them out or comfort them, you couldn't, because then you would die. So, and the whole seizure, progress, and termination of the disease were the incidents of half an hour. And the whole thing, you got these sharp pains, you started bleeding out from your pores, which again cover every inch of your body, and you're dizzy. And the whole thing, you're dead in a half hour. So there's this prince. His name is Prospero. He is a bit of a dreamer. He tries to keep some sort of normalcy, I guess, going. So when half the people in his kingdom are dead, he sends out invitations to 1,000 knights and dames and friends, and they seclude themselves in a castellated abbey, which is a house of worship that's fortified. And they seal themselves in. The abbey's provisioned for however long they need to be. So, yeah, they seal themselves in. The wall has gates of iron, and they welded the bolts. So no matter how sympathetic they might feel towards the people on the outside, they can't let anybody in. And no matter how bad it might get in there, none of them can get out. And, yeah, again, amply provisioned. In the meantime, it was folly to grieve or think. The prince had provided all the appliances of pleasure. And this is the moral dilemma in the story. Is it, should we all, sit in the abbey and mope about what's going on outside, or should we have a little fun, since we're all probably going to be dead soon too? So he brought in buffoons, improvisatori, ballet dancers, everybody was there. And they tried to make time stand still. They didn't want anybody to know, or not that they didn't want anybody to know, but they didn't want to know about the passage of time. Again, this is all, meant to be a kind of a dream state. Time stands still, the world's ending outside, but, we're okay. We're in this abbey, we're having a good time. Is it right to do that? Well, that's for you to decide. But the Red Death is outside, security is within. And about 6 months in, Prince Prospero throws a big masked ball, kind of a weird masked ball, in that the costumes, were odd, and he decorated the abbey, and I have this here. This was the abbey. So you started over here, over here. So you go through the blue room to the purple room, the green room, orange, white, violet, black. And without, these rooms were all made of kind of curtainy material, right? So if you entered the blue room and you came in through the east and left through the west side, everything was blue, including you, because as these are meant to represent fires. There were fires without all these rooms that would make everything in there that particular color. Now, again, the black room was a little bit different. So the Duke had a love of the bazaar, and these apartments were apartments. Again, he made them. They were curtains. There was a sharp turn at every 20 or 30 yards. I did my best with the drawing, and at each turn, a novel effect. To the right and left, in the middle of each wall, a tall and narrow Gothic window looked out upon a closed corridor, which pursued the windings of the suite. So, let me get that picture back up. So if you enter the blue room, there are Gothic windows, big, large windows here and here. If you look to the left and to the right, I'm assuming that's where the fire was also, which would have been the light source, which kept everything blue, or purple, green, orange, white, violet, black, as the case might have been. But the black room was something a little different. The 7th apartment was closely shrouded in black velvet tapestries that hung all over the ceiling and down the walls, falling in heavy folds upon a carpet of the same material and hue. So black velvet. Velvet is a thicker material. It's not a curtain type material. If these were made of velvet, there would be no natural light coming in here at all. It's that thick. Falling in heavy folds upon a carpet of the same material. So the carpet's black. The tapestries are black. So this is keeping in the theme of the other rooms. But in this chamber only, says Poe, the color, and the color is spelled in the British style. The British spell it UR. Of the windows failed to correspond with the decorations. The panes, so the windows here, were scarlet, a deep blood color. So with the effect here that you have of the fires, letting in, lighting kind of the windows and making the rooms each color, scarlet on a black velvet tapestry is going to produce a reddish, scarletish, scarlet. Well, it's going to produce a scarlet color, and it's going to look like blood is on the walls. It's like blood is dancing on the walls, and this is the, kind of the creepy room. Nobody really wanted to be in here. And there was also a clock against the wall. And that clock's important. But we'll get to it. So now, in no one of the 7 apartments was there any lamp or candelabrum, so light source, amid the profusion of golden ornaments that lay scattered to and fro or depended from the roof. There was no light of any kind emanating from lamp or candle within the suite of chambers. But in the corridors that followed the suite, there stood, opposite to each window, a heavy tripod. So, as I said, the tripods, this is a fancy description of, there are fire pits, and that's the light source. And so in this apartment, we're still in the 7th apartment, the black room. There was a gigantic clock of ebony. Now, velvet does a pretty good job of canceling out sound. But even in that room, with its, with its sound canceling properties and general creepy nature, it could still be heard by the people dancing in the ballroom. It says here, its pendulum swung to and fro with a dull, heavy, monotonous clang, and when the minute hand made the circuit of the face and the hour was to be stricken, there came from the brazen lungs of the clock a sound which was clear and loud and deep and exceedingly musical, but of so peculiar a note and emphasis that, at each lapse of an hour, the musicians of the orchestra were constrained to pause momentarily in their performance to hearken to the sound, and thus the waltzers perforce ceased their evolutions, and there was a brief disconcert of the whole gay company. So they hear this clock striking the hour every hour, and they stop. They get freaked out. Why? Again, Prospero had done a pretty good job of making this all seem like a dream. So these guys also were getting uncomfortable with the fact that time was passing. And it goes on to say the musicians, they all looked at each other and they said, next hour, they're thinking next hour we're not going to let this thing freak us out so much. But of course, the next hour comes and they do. They don't want to think about or notice time passing at all. They just want to have fun and forget about the condition of the world outside.